Was a violent, abusive alcoholic. He physically abused my mother. He physically abused me, and I hated him with all my heart. I was terrified of him. He died when I was 7 years old, and I celebrated. I was very glad that he died. My mother, I guess, loved me, but she was absent a lot because I was the youngest of 5 children. And so she had to take care of us and put food on the table. So she wasn't around a lot. I can remember spending many, many nights at home alone. And somewhere along the line, I got a glow-in-the-dark crucifix. And you might think that's funny. And I guess it is. And that's another story. But somehow that represented to me, I didn't understand all of it. But somehow that represented God to me. And I knew that somehow God was present in the darkness of that room, and in the lone time that I had, and with the fear that my mother would also die and I would be left alone, somehow I knew that God was present and that God loved me. But I didn't know my father loved me, and I didn't know my mother loved me because they never told me that. I can never remember a time when my mother ever said, "I love you." I can never remember a time when my father said, "Richard, I love you." There was never a moment when my father or my mother ever held me in their arms. I can never remember that. I was introduced to pornography when I was 6 years old. I was molested by an older boy when I was about 8 or 9 years old. I began acting out sexually as a young boy and didn't know it then, but developed a sexual addiction. I had been emotionally and verbally abused by my brother, by an older brother, and by many of my friends. I was not into sports at that time, and so I was very shy. I was very bashful. I had an extreme amount of low self-esteem. I was starving for love and affection, for affirmation, for someone to nurture me, for someone to say, "Richard, you matter. You're significant, and I love you, and I care about you." But I never received that from anyone. I was always embarrassed and was always ashamed, but I didn't know why. When I became 17 years old, I professed Christ as my Savior because I was crying out to God, "Oh God, do something and help me. I'm sick and tired of this life that I'm living. I'm sick and tired of this homosexual struggle. I'm sick and tired of acting out with other guys. God, help me." But no one mentored me. No one discipled me. No one shared with me the deeper truths of God. And so I grew up as a Christian beginning to think that being a Christian meant all the religious activities and a list of do's and don'ts. And that's how I continued to live my Christian life. When I was 21 years old, I married a sweet young lady by the name of Sandra K. Wiggins, who's from Bolivar, Tennessee, or actually from Tune. Most of you probably don't know where Tune is. That's Toone, not Tune. But we were married, and I really thought, well, maybe this alleviate the problem, take care of things, and that didn't change things. And my dear sweet wife was a holy lady that loved God with all of her heart. Then I went on into seminary to go into ministry. Because I realized now I was really seeking that love and affirmation, that care, and I don't know now if God had called me into the ministry. I know that was a place I could find significance. And I'm telling you, this is the way I kind of grew up, without having that love and affirmation and nurture and care. No one discipling me, no one mentoring me. I was very confused. I was very depressed. Went to college. Didn't say that part. Went to college. Was very depressed during that time. Tried to take my own life because of my depression. Took 3 large bottles of aspirin. I was sick for several days, but it didn't kill me. I was really sick. Still crying out for someone to love me. Still crying out for someone to say, "Richard, I care about you." And I felt like that I had to perform to be something that I wasn't. So I put a mask on a long time ago, and I started performing. I started performing in a religious way so that people would say, "Man, there's a spiritual man. There's a man who loves God. And I would perform, I would do anything that I could to get affirmation, to get the applause of men, to get someone to say, Richard, you're a great guy. Richard, you're a wonderful man. Richard, we love you. You're our pastor. You're our friend. We love you. We care about you. I used to think that the worst thing that could ever happen would be for my sin to be exposed, for me to be found out. I used to go to bed at night and I would cry at night, God, either kill me or heal me. And then I would remember waking up the next morning and I would be angry because nothing had changed. And I would hit my fist in the pillow and nothing had changed. And I would have to continue living on my life. And so I was terrified. I didn't realize the biblical principle that it's so important to come out of the darkness and into the light. And then God can start the act of healing and transformation. As long as we live in secrecy and deception and live lives and live deceptively, there is no way for us to receive healing. There is no way for us to come out of whatever it is we might be struggling with. But I was terrified. One reason I was embarrassed, I was ashamed. I knew that if anyone knew, I would lose that which made me significant. And that which made me significant was my ministry. I was looking for that affirmation and that applause. I knew that I would lose all that. I was afraid of being condemned and judged. I didn't feel that the church was a safe place. And if anything, the church needs to be a safe place for the sinners in the world, wherever they are, whether it's homosexuality or prostitution, can come out of the street and come into the church and come and know the love of God. And so we need to be compassionate and speak the truth in love. We need to desperately do that.